You keep saying the same thing. I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And slowly, your life gets stuck between wanting to change and actually changing. And that's what hurts the most. Because deep down, you do want to change. So why do you keep delaying the very things that could improve your life? What if procrastination isn't laziness? What if your brain is doing something much deeper? Because the truth is, you are not avoiding the task. You are avoiding what the task makes you feel. And once you understand that, procrastination starts making a lot more sense. Part 1. The biggest lie about procrastination. Most people think procrastination means you're lazy, undisciplined, distracted, unserious. But if that were true, then why do people procrastinate most on the things they care about the most? Why do people delay their dream project, their exam prep, their comeback, the life they say they want? The answer is simple. Procrastination is not usually a work problem. It is an emotional problem. Because when you sit down to do something important, your brain doesn't just see the task, it also feels the emotion attached to it. That emotion might be fear of failure, overwhelm, self-doubt, pressure, perfectionism, fear of not being good enough. So you don't avoid the work, you avoid the feeling. And that's a huge difference. Part 2. Your brain thinks it's protecting you. This is where it gets interesting. A lot of procrastination is actually your brain trying to protect you, not your future, your current emotional state. If a task feels emotionally threatening, your mind quietly says, let's do this later. Because later feels safer than discomfort right now. That's why the moment you try to start something important, you suddenly feel like checking your phone, cleaning your room, watching one more video, doing literally anything else. And for a moment, it gives you relief. That relief is the trap. Because every time you escape discomfort, your brain learns avoidance works. And once your brain learns that, procrastination stops being a habit. It becomes a pattern. A pattern where your mind keeps choosing short-term relief over long-term change. Part 3. Why you delay the things that matter. Most. One of the deepest truths about procrastination is this. You often procrastinate the most on the things that matter the most. Why? Because meaningful goals carry emotional risk. That task is no longer just a task. It becomes, what if I fail? What if I try seriously and still disappoint myself? What if I'm not actually capable? What if people judge me? And that's why starting feels so heavy. Because now you're not just facing work, you're facing what the work might reveal about you. That's also why perfectionists procrastinate so much, because perfectionism is often not ambition. It is fear wearing elegant clothes. You're not waiting for the perfect time. You're waiting to feel emotionally safe enough to begin. But that moment usually never comes. Part 4. The real hidden problem. Identity. Now, here's the deeper layer most people never talk about. Sometimes procrastination is not just about emotions. Sometimes it's about identity. Consciously, you may want to become disciplined, focused, successful, consistent. But unconsciously, you may still believe things like, I always quit. I never follow through. I waste my potential. I'm not that type of person. And if that identity is still running in the background, then every attempt at change will feel unnatural, because your actions are trying to move toward a future version of you that your nervous system does not yet believe is real. That's why people often choose familiar suffering over unfamiliar growth, not because they want pain, but because the unknown feels more threatening than the life they've already learned how to survive. Part 5. The most dangerous cost of procrastination. The worst part of procrastination is not lost time. It's not even missed opportunities. It's this. Procrastination destroys self-trust. Every time you say, I'll do it later, now, and then don't, Your brain starts collecting evidence that says, I can't trust myself. I never follow through. I always disappoint myself. And once you stop trusting yourself, everything gets heavier. Because real progress depends on one invisible belief. When I say I'll do something, I believe myself. That belief is priceless, and procrastination quietly weakens it over time. Part 6. How to break the cycle. So how do you actually change? Not by shaming yourself more, not by forcing motivation, but by understanding what your mind is doing. Start by asking, what am I trying not to feel? Then make the task smaller. Not easier. Smaller. Because the hardest part is usually not the work. It's crossing the emotional barrier of starting. And most importantly, stop waiting to feel ready. Because meaningful work rarely begins with confidence. It usually begins with friction. And if you can learn to stay with that discomfort, instead of escaping it, that is where real change begins. So no, you are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not incapable of change. You are just caught in a pattern where your mind keeps choosing emotional safety over transformation. And once you understand that, you stop hating yourself blindly and start changing yourself intelligently. Because the real question is not, why am I so lazy? The real question is, what is my mind trying to protect me from? And once you answer that, everything starts to change.